Funding for Schaffrillas is provided by...
Nobody. Because once again, I'm partnering with the American Heart Association to raise funds for their critical mission to stop the world's leading killer, heart disease. Last year, you forced me to do all these deeply insane videos for the sake of charity. And this year, we're doing a sequel. We're back by popular demand. I mean, heart disease hasn't stopped in the past year. Every 40 seconds, around the length of this segment, someone suffers from a heart attack or stroke. AHA is working to stop this. The AHA ties mental health to heart health, funding mental health programs and research with the understanding that depression, anxiety, and stress are major factors on heart health. The AHA funds so many causes related to heart disease, including food banks and food kitchens around the US, as access to nutrition is so closely tied to heart health. 100% of donations go back into research, care, and education programs throughout the world. I'll have a giving link attached to this video and more information about the AHA in the caption. Please consider donating. Every dollar counts. This year, I'm aiming to raise $20,000. And to show my commitment to this event, it's time for the moment you've been waiting for. This year's incentives. The first milestone is something I've never done before. A poorly translated fan dub of Over the Hedge, with me and all my friends voicing the characters. You know, Backstroke of the West? The iconic, poorly translated Revenge of the Sith dub? Yeah, we want to do that with Over the Hedge. It's gonna be lit. Everything else here is pretty self-explanatory, so please donate if you want to see them. And now, on to the video. 2025 was the year no new Sonic TV shows came out, which is fine, because I didn't want to support the regime over at Paramount Plus anyway. This year I had a rather slow start when it came to watching new shows, since all my free time was being taken up by a certain asinine, torturous 52 movie ranking. But the good news is, once I finished marathoning all those movies, I bounced back and watched 28 new seasons of TV that came out in 2025. A new record! And it's made even better by the fact that I didn't really watch a lot of crap this year. The average was generally pretty high for the shows I picked out to watch. Before we get into those, however, I did want to bring up two shows that aired a couple episodes apiece this year. On New Year's Eve, just making the buzzer beater, we got a brand new Kaguya-sama Love is War special that consists of 2 standard length episodes. My favorite anime of all time is back, and I'm pissed. Not that these episodes were bad, they were fantastic quality-wise and shows that the team has still got it creatively. But these are just random manga chapters they skipped to because they didn't want to commit to a full adaptation of the second half of the manga for some reason. It pisses me the hell off! Sure, I think the manga kinda goes downhill in its second half, and I'd rather get these chapters than not get them. But it's so choppy the way they did this. Where's the Ishigami Christmas party arc? That's like the best part with his character, and they're just not gonna do it. They show Miko having a broken arm, Hayasaka not working for Kaguya anymore, and Mikado existing in general, and just expect you to not question those things if you're an anime-only viewer. What the hell is going on over there? The episodes were great though, I really loved them in a vacuum. I also caught up on The Amazing Digital Circus this year. You know what, it's pretty good. I think the 3 new episodes that aired this year, especially 6 and 7, are the best in the whole series. When Jax explains to Pomni what his whole deal is in episode 6, all I could think was, why is the writing good? Not to say the writing wasn't good before this, but this scene especially just really impressed me. I think the show and these episodes are really good. And before you ask, Kinger is my favorite character. But yeah, I don't think it's appropriate to throw the 2 Kaguya episodes and 3 Digital Circus episodes on the ranking. I'm gonna set an arbitrary rule for my videos that you need to have at least 4 episodes to count as a season for me. So with that said, let's kick things off with the worst season of television I watched this year. And it's a doozy! By the time November rolled around, I hadn't really watched a truly awful season of television. And I kinda craved some delicious garbage. Watching good shit all the time gets boring. Bring on something absolutely nauseating. It'll be funny. And that's when I started seeing tweets about the new Ryan Murphy, Kim Kardashian show, All's Fair, which debuted with a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, and was described as one of the worst shows in years. Well, I couldn't pass that up. All's Fair is truly everything I hoped it would be and more. The show centers around an all-female law firm where the women are all disgustingly rich. Relatable for the common viewer. Kim Kardashian is the lead and she is truly giving one of the worst performances I think I have ever seen in my life.
It's our anniversary, Chase.
She misdelivers every line. She cannot sell a single emotion. This is her face when she finds out her husband was cheating on her. You look really broken up about that. The show even seems explicitly written around the fact that she can't emote. Like, she's explicitly not that angry or sad about what her husband did. And the other characters are telling her, rise up, where's your rage? But she just can't convey rage, so her character won't. Her performance is made even worse by the fact that there are real actors around her who are trying to make this material work. Naomi Watts, Teyana Taylor, Sarah Paulson, Glenn f***ing Close, what is she doing in here? How did any of them get stuck in this shit show? I think we should give Teyana Taylor the Oscar out of pity that she had to be in this. The actors are doing what they can, but the characters are so paper thin. Most of the scenes in the show are just them sitting around and unnaturally explaining things about their previous cases that they all already know. Sarah Paulson's character is this unbearable, childish creep who holds a grudge against the other characters for not hiring her for 10 f***ing years. Initially, she's the only somewhat entertaining character, but she just gets so grating. It's not Sarah Paulson's fault. She brings this character to life exactly as it was intended to be.
Fuck you, you fuck!
I hate this show. It was a funny, so bad it's good watch at first, but once I realized I had to lock in and complete it if I wanted it on this list, I started regretting all my life choices. It got real old real fast. There's supposed to be a case of the week element where they help a new woman in each episode, but you can feel the writers getting bored of that halfway through because it starts to get less and less attention until it disappears entirely compared to the ongoing main character storylines. There's a scene where a woman commits suicide right in front of them because of her debts or whatever, and they don't even seem to care. It's just business as usual in the next scene as they talk about how the circumstances a man put her through led to this moment. I'm sorry, you just watched her leap off a building. Could you be a little more shaken up about that, maybe? At the end of the first episode, we find out that Kim Kardashian's husband is actually getting it on with the firm's assistant, Teyana Taylor. That seems like it's gonna be juicy. But then that doesn't lead to any drama because Kim Kardashian is incapable of making an angry face, so she doesn't have any beef with Teyana Taylor. They are friends, even though Teyana is pregnant with the baby of the man who cheated on Kim Kardashian. She doesn't care though. It's all good. There's one episode where we find out the husband has a trans girlfriend, and since he's a pro football player, she wants to be seen publicly as his girlfriend because this will advance trans rights. Okay, so where does this plotline go? That's a good question. Where did it go? She literally never appears again after this scene. This is like in episode 2 and she just vanishes. Wait, I think this is a commentary on trans erasure. Wow, Ryan Murphy, you absolute genius, you. Glenn Close has a subplot where her husband, Modern Family Man, is dying of cancer, and once he is dead, she wants to leave his rotting, decaying body in her house for days. Why am I still talking about this show? Okay, so for some reason, they want to bring Sarah Paulson into the firm, even though she has made it her life mission for the past 10 years to destroy the firm. And she even privately admits that that's what she wants to do once she gets in. But they want to bring her in anyway, alright. But then Glenn Close is like, F you, you're not even good. And Sarah Paulson gets so mad that she orchestrates this scheme to make everyone believe Glenn Close has dementia or something. I'm not gonna go back to the episode and check, are you kidding? And then she frames Glenn Close for murder somehow. That's what the season ends on. She pulls enough strings to have Glenn Close arrested. Literally how? I guess we have to wait until season 2 to find out. I would say there's no way in hell I'm watching that, but you know what? I kinda want to suffer more, so I probably will. This show sucks complete ass, and I would highly recommend it. It's very silly. I would also complain about how ridiculous and unprofessional Kim Kardashian's outfits are in this, but to be fair, that amount of cleavage isn't that far off from what Mia Fey wears, so I guess there is precedent for this in the world of law. Okay, from here on out, the write-ups will not be this long, I swear. In second to last place is a much better show than the previous one in the sense that it's like a 5 out of 10. The Dinner Table Detective. This is an anime where a rich heiress moonlights as a detective. Except before she can solve any crime herself, her butler just tells her who did it or gives a massive hint because she's way off base. That's how every single mystery in this show goes. I don't like that. It's really boring. Why am I invested in any of these mysteries if the butler is just gonna solve them before the main heroine can? This is like the opposite of the feminist masterwork that is All's Fair. It's not a terrible watch though, because the main character and her goofy, overconfident detective partner are pretty charming and fun. This might have one of the worst dubs I have ever seen though. Not from the main two detectives and the butler, their voice actors are pretty good, but from nearly every supporting character. They sound outright awful in this.
Ah, yes, I've heard. You traveled here by ship, right?
You're as clumsy as ever. When will you stop tripping over your own feet?
Normally I'll default to an English dub if there is one, and then switch to a subbed version if I can't vibe with it. But I was so morbidly curious to hear more awful deliveries out of this dub, so I stuck with it. I don't think watching the subbed version would really change my opinion on how lousy the mystery element of this mystery series is. Not very good, but also kind of a hard show to hate. I'm really glad I found something else to take the last place spot instead. Now, for no particular reason, I'm gonna rewatch my 2023 TV show ranking and see what was on that. Okay, yeah, Succession, that was pretty good. Blue Eye Samurai, yep. Invincible, Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, good stuff. Oh, look at that! My number 5 favorite TV season of 2023 was Fionna and Cake Season 1. Yeah, that was a great season of television. Coming in third to last at 26th place is Fionna and Cake Season 2. I really tried, but I did not with this season at all. Like, okay, we wrapped up Simon's storyline in a satisfying way after this big, exciting, multiversal adventure. What can we do next? I know, we can have 50 different subplots with most of them being uninteresting. I could not believe how long the saving the sweet spot plotline lasted. I could not give less of a shit. Finn is out there dying as PB, Marcy, and Simon chase a bunch of dead ends to try and save him that amount to nothing by the end. Huntress is trying so hard to salvage Finn's life and the entire season over in Fionna World, but we keep getting sidetracked by Mordecai-level relationship drama and the Lady Rainicorn equivalent in this world wanting to have intercourse with a cat. Marshall Lee's problems are potentially interesting, but never feel like they're given enough screen time to really work. Cake mostly just feels like a complete afterthought in this season. The more mystical elements that pop up in Fionna World are a nice reprieve from the standard boring melodrama, but they also kind of feel like dead ends, much like the stuff in Ooh. I still can't believe Fionna was so hurt by her friends putting on the fundraiser to save their home without her since she was preoccupied in a Cosmic Owl murder trial that she decided to bulldoze it. She's not a fucking child, and this isn't a small little oopsie, like kicking something out of frustration which breaks part of their home. This is a fucking bulldozer! You don't just impulsively get into a bulldozer to destroy your friend's property! I really couldn't stand her this season, and a lot of people have compared her actions to what Finn did to Flame Princess in the original show. The difference, of course, being that Finn is a child, and she's like 30. It really doesn't take much for her to get forgiven either. It feels way too easy. And again, were they just supposed to not do the benefit concert if she didn't show up? Whatever, dude. I did genuinely love episode 9 though, probably because it didn't take place in Fionna World at all. It felt like Adventure Time at its best again. Crazy how that works. I love the worm guy and the heavily Rebecca Sugar-coded song he sings, which probably results from the fact that Rebecca Sugar worked on this episode. The stuff with Huntress here was great. In general, Huntress was the MVP of the season, obviously, which is neat because I didn't really care about her character that much in the original series. But she's fleshed out in some cool ways here, and I love how they portray her feelings for Finn. Despite how underdeveloped his character's problems felt, I liked Marshall Lee a lot this season, and I honestly couldn't even tell that that wasn't Donald Glover voicing him. The new VA does a great job sounding just like him. It's also nice to hear Kunail Nanjiani as Prismo again, even if he doesn't do anything this season. I really didn't have the worst time with Fionna and Cake Season 2, especially thanks to the Huntress stuff. But it's kind of an unfocused, bloated mess, and a massive step down from Season 1 in almost every regard. I know one of the messages of Season 1 is that we should appreciate the more mundane, normal aspects of life, and this season is building off that message, but it also turns out that I just like when my Adventure Time show has adventure in it. Go figure. Okay, this will be another short one. Next up is From Bureaucrat to Villainess. This is an isekai about a 52-year-old salaryman getting hit by a truck and then waking up in the body of the villainess of his daughter's favorite Otome game. That sounded absolutely insane, and I had to see it for myself. Honestly though, this show is just kind of your standard Otome game isekai. It doesn't do a whole lot to stand out. There is a fun twist where the man's daughter and wife realize he's trapped in the game and find ways of helping him out through the gameplay. And it's just generally charming and fun throughout. But nothing too crazy really. My next life as a villainess clears pretty handily. Next up is Daredevil Born Again. I honestly forgot this came out in 2025. It feels like so long ago. I did not hate this show. And in fact, I'd probably say I liked it better than the last 2/3 of season 2 of the original series. But it isn't anywhere close to the quality of season 1, or the absolute masterpiece that was season 3. Instead, this show is fine, bordering on good at times. Some of the episodes are legitimately really cool, and then others are hanging out with Kamala Khan's dad and having him mention that his daughter is Kamala Khan every 5 minutes. Bro, we get it. I really wasn't keen on the whole removing Foggy and Karen from the show thing, especially since Daredevil's new allies and friends just aren't really as interesting. I did kind of like the new stuff with Kingpin as mayor and just seeing how he deals with all this political red tape when he's so used to immediately getting his way. He even has his own JD Vance equivalent, played by Tony Soprano's son. That's fun. I don't mean that's the same actor who played AJ on The Sopranos. I mean the actor is literally the son of James Gandolfini, who plays Tony Soprano. I probably should have just said James Gandolfini's son. I will learn from this experience.
Get out of my house!
There's some other cool stuff. Like, I really like what they do with Punisher here, and he has this great monologue halfway through the season. Overall, though, I can't say this left that strong of an impression on me. I definitely didn't dislike it, but it very much feels like a show with a troubled production and two completely different visions mashed into one package. Hopefully season 2 fixes that, since we can start fresh with just the vision of the guys who know what they're doing. I feel like that's the exact same sentiment I have about Metroid Prime 5. You know, in another 17 years when that comes out. Now for Pokemon Concierge Season 1B. Remember in 2023 when they released 4 episodes of the stop-motion Pokemon show? They released another 4 2 years later. So yeah, I guess I'll watch them. They were cute. I don't know what else there is to say. I mean, the animation was very good. They forgot to add Lotad though. How do you guys keep forgetting to add the best Pokemon to ever exist? What's wrong with you? Next up is Murderbot Season 1. This is a sci-fi show based on a book series starring Alexander Skarsgård as the titular Murderbot, a security robot who disables his governor module and gains free will, but sticks around on his security job so as to not arouse suspicion. I wasn't vibing with this one that much at first. None of the human characters made an impression on me, and while Skarsgård's performance is good, I found the constant quips his character thought up in his mind a little bit grating. But by the second half, the dynamics he has with the crew started to get pretty interesting. I like the progression of his character, and I even started to finally grow attached to the crew and their camaraderie. By the time we got to the last episode of the season, I was pretty emotionally invested. It was a great finale. This one was definitely a bit of a slow burn for me, but I am glad I watched it overall. Not the best thing I've seen this year, but maybe worth your time to check out if you're interested. Now we got Peacemaker Season 2, which I mostly enjoyed for what it was, but I have a couple of big problems with it. The characters and their camaraderie are still good and likable, but this season takes such a long time to build up to the reveal that this new dimension Peacemaker keeps going to is a Nazi-infested world. And I wouldn't mind the slow burn if the resolution here wasn't so abrupt. They just get out of here after one short episode, and then this alternate universe that was built up for the entire season is just not a factor in the finale. And I like the finale as an emotional release for these characters. I thought it did have some really good scenes in it. But this isn't the episode to end a season on. Barely anything happens, and the stuff that does happen, like some of the antagonists completely switching sides, feel really abrupt because it wasn't built up earlier in the season. We gotta waste time on this Eagle Hunter played by Michael Rooker who tries to kill Eagly, except he doesn't, so this whole subplot feels like a waste of time. There's other weird things, like why does Rick Flag keep Economos on his workforce when the guy is very clearly friends with Peacemaker and very clearly stalling to help Peacemaker multiple times? When Atabadi Kaio is surrounded by all the Nazis at the end of episode 6. That was a great cliffhanger, and I was wondering how she was gonna get out of that. Well, it turns out she could just outrun all of them, even though some of them had a truck that they got out of to chase her on foot. And then she climbed a fence to get in a pool, and then everyone jumped in the pool after her instead of just surrounding the pool. And then Judo Master saves her, and they just play Scrabble until it's time to go home. There's no sneaking around, there's no danger anymore, it's just chill. It's kinda dumb. A lot of the writing and plot progression this season just felt a bit sloppy, like James Gunn was too preoccupied getting his new cinematic universe in order to really give this season a second draft. I don't blame him, but this really felt like the work of a guy who was spread way too thin. He's normally a lot better than this. And my problems with his writing this season extends to the dialogue and how over-the-top excessive it is with the swearing. I'm not trying to be a Puritan or anything, it's just when you hear the word fuck 100 times per episode, it starts to lose all of its meaning and impact. I was gonna write like 100 fucks into this segment to demonstrate my points, but I didn't feel like censoring all that for the YouTube version of this video. This is the exact kind of thing people frequently make fun of popular animated show I don't care about and will not ever talk about for. So why does that kind of writing get a pass from people when James Gunn does it? The episodes were still pretty entertaining. John Cena is honestly turning into quite the formidable actor. He's even better here than he was in season 1. Overall though, I feel like this season could have been stronger. And I really don't want the silly, irreverent Peacemaker show to become required viewing to understand the greater DCU. The Disney Plus shows are largely what killed public interest in the MCU. Let's please not make this essential viewing if I just want to keep up with what Superman is up to. Alright, now I want to take another trip down memory lane. What was number 1 last year on my TV show ranking? Oh yeah, Dungeon Meshi. Where's season 2 of that? I don't have time to read the manga. What was ranked right below it? Oh yeah, season 3 of Hacks, my second favorite TV season of 2024. So number 20 on this list is Hacks Season 4. I don't know, it really wasn't bad or anything, but I think the premise is starting to wear thin. I mean, Kayla got on my nerves again, just when I thought she was getting less annoying in Season 3. More importantly though, I just don't know what there is to do anymore with Ava and Deborah's relationship. They had a pretty good reason to beef at the start of this season, and their conflict led to some funny moments. And I did really like some pivotal scenes, like their reconciliation near the beach, and when Deborah puts it all on the line for Ava later in the season. Those moments are great, but the connective tissue between them is starting to feel a little been there, done that. The season finale especially was pretty aimless, and didn't really end on a note that made me care too much about what happens next. I really can't pinpoint what it is exactly that made me like this season less than the previous 3. Maybe there's just less momentum since Deborah kinda has what she wants now, and we've already seen her and Ava beef in the past, so that element isn't really fresh anymore. I don't know, they had a good run, but I think I'm just ready for things to wrap up. I don't even really remember what else happened in this season. Ava got into a polyamorous relationship with 2 characters who didn't even matter to anything going on. Jimmy Kimmel showed up for a cameo and he really cannot act. I don't know, man, that's all I got. You haven't watched the show anyway, probably. Let's move on. Now it's time for Poker Face Season 2. I'm surprised how little people talk about this show. It was actually created by Rian Johnson, and it's another fun mystery series, kind of like his Knives Out trilogy. Each episode follows this woman, Charlie Kale, who has an unexplained superpower to instantly tell when someone is lying. So she uses that to solve mysteries as she travels across America. Each episode starts with a new set of characters and some sort of murders committed. So after a 15 to 20 minute cold open showing exactly who, why, and how done it, we then switch to Charlie's perspective before the murder takes place, and often find out that she befriended the victim, which gives her more of a stake in what's going on. It's a pretty cool premise that I felt the need to explain because, again, it feels like shockingly few people talk about this show. This season was a bit of a mixed bag. Some episodes were kinda weak, like the shitty alligator one, but some were pretty fun, like the mystery about an evil little girl who orchestrates the death of a gerbil. That was a cute change of pace. We got some fun guest stars like Cynthia Erivo, John Mulaney, Gus Fring, character actress Margot Martindale. There's even a tolerable Aquafina guest role in here. There's a twist towards the end of the season that I saw coming from a mile away, but that doesn't diminish how cool it was for Charlie to discover it herself. Overall, I had a pretty solid time with this season, but it ends on a cliffhanger that is not getting resolved because the show was cancelled. Some people have been speculating that it's because the lead actress, Natasha Lyonne, is an obnoxiously heavy AI advocate, and Rian Johnson does not f with that, so he's trying to pitch the show to other networks, with Peter Dinklage taking over the main role. I mean, why not? Might be best to just cut his losses and make a new mystery series, though. I think it's alright to let this one end. Even though, yes, it does end on a cliffhanger, and a pretty absurd one at that. That's just funny, though. I'm not even mad.
The Bears!
Yes, Chef, it's The Bear Season 4 next. Compared to most shows we've talked about so far in this video, this season of The Bear was actually an improvement over the aggressively average Season 3. It felt like it had all the narrative and character progression that they forgot to do in the third season, so they just did it here instead. The episode focused entirely on Sid is especially a real highlight. I thought it added a lot to her character and the show as a whole. The wedding episode was pretty nice too, and I liked the finale that actually seemed to push Carmi forward for once. I still wouldn't say this was as good as Season 2, but I am kinda glad I stuck with it. I had a pretty good time with it overall. Now for the only mini-series on this list, Death by Lightning. It's a 4-episode special event starring Michael Shannon as the 20th President James Garfield, and Matthew Macfadyen as the man who shot him, Charles Guiteau. Is it as good as The Ballad of Guiteau from Stephen Sondheim's Assassins? Not really. I felt like I got more out of that 7-minute song than I did this 3-hour miniseries, but that doesn't mean it's bad. Michael Shannon's performance is fantastic, and I also really like Nick Offerman as Chester Arthur. It's really cool to see how Garfield was kinda accidentally thrust into the role of being his party's nominee, and later the president. The dialogue maybe feels a little too contemporary, but it's not that bad. I just think the story could have either been fleshed out into more episodes, or condensed into a film. I feel like we could have gotten more details on this admittedly short presidency if we wanted it to be a TV show. And as much as it pains me to say this, I did not vibe with Matthew Macfadyen's performance that much. It just feels like he's playing Tom Wamsgams again. He didn't really disappear into this role, and I was never terrified of him. Something just felt off about his portrayal. I don't know what to tell you. There's this one fantastic scene with Garfield's widow at the end, where she confronts him. Honestly, that, plus the other 2 lead performances, kinda made the whole show worth it for me. Pretty good, but could have been stronger. Alright, now we're getting to the great shows. First up in this category is The Chair Company with Tim Robinson. I'm not really as familiar with his work as I am with, say, Nathan Fielder. I know he's primarily known for sketch comedy, and I think this is meant to be his first narrative show that implements that comedy in a more scripted and serialized way. Kinda like how The Curse was for Fielder. I could be completely off base about that, don't listen to me. As a complete newcomer to Tim Robinson though, I totally get the comedic appeal. This show's a riot. Watching him bumble around trying to solve this somewhat mundane yet still intriguing conspiracy was a great time. I think the show maybe has a few too many plot lines and characters, and the last 10 minutes of the season pile on even more instead of resolving other things, which is pretty funny in its own right, but a little bit unsatisfying. Overall though, this was a really good introduction to Tim Robinson. I'm definitely going to check out more of his stuff going forward. Next we got A Man on the Inside Season 2. Yeah, remember either last year or 2 years ago, I forget, when I talked about Season 1 of this show? It's the new series starring Ted Danson that also came from the creator of The Good Place. We just follow an old man who gets a second lease on life by going undercover and solving mysteries. This time he goes undercover at a college and even finds a nice lady friend, leading to a relationship. Ooh. Honestly, I think I like this one even better than the first season. The mystery and the supporting characters are both a little more engaging. Plus, we even get Stephen McKinley Henderson's character back. Hell yeah, dude, I love Stephen McKinley Henderson. I have not met a single person who doesn't like Stephen McKinley Henderson. It's impossible. I also think there's a particularly compelling side plot this season with Ted Danson's investigative partner and her estranged relationship with her mother. There's some actually really good drama here with that, particularly in this Thanksgiving episode, which is kind of filler plot-wise, but it's got great vibes and might actually be my favorite episode of the whole show. If you didn't give this show a watch based on my previous recommendation of Season 1, you should definitely check both it and Season 2 out. It's just an overwhelmingly nice and pleasant experience. And I wouldn't even mind if they did a Season 3. I'd love to see more of these characters. Especially the one played by Stephen McKinley Henderson, dude. Next up, just barely making the top half of the ranking is Phineas and Ferb Season 5. I honestly can't believe how much I enjoyed this season. I made a video about how skeptical I was going in of the idea that we needed to continue a series that seemed to already cover just about everything you could possibly do with this premise. But Dan and Swampy proved to me that they still got it. For the most part. I do have one big problem with this season as a whole. But overall, it's still a ton of fun. They came up with some cool episode ideas, like having Candace and Doof both see the same therapist, who actually starts to piece together that Doof's inventions might just be Candace's mysterious force. They actually follow up on Stacy knowing Perry's secret identity with a really fun episode. Tropey McTropeface was such a creative and silly concept. Vanessa has been fully folded into the group as one of Candace's friends. Rip Jenny or whatever her name is. And of all characters, I think the MVP of this season is Buford. I don't know why. They made him hysterical in this season. There's this running gag about him wanting to make a bread bowl hot tub and constantly getting denied, but then he does get it, and it's an entire solo episode about him and the hot tub, who's voiced by Philomena Kunk. I don't know what finally woke these guys up to the fact that Buford can carry an entire episode, but I'm glad they realized it eventually. Some aspects are a little weird, like the animation is a bit hit or miss this time around, and some characters are absent for a while. Norm doesn't really show up until halfway through the season, and I assume they just didn't have the voice actor around at first. The same is true for Rodney. Like, they do episodes with Love Muffin, but he's just conspicuously absent, which is a shame because I love that little freak. Instead, they have Dr. Diminutive be the only Love Muffin scientist who talks, and I don't know, he's not as fun. The Meep episode was kind of a letdown. It's pretty clear that they just felt obligated to do it and they didn't want to, considering they didn't tease a fourth one. Ah well. Sometimes Dan and Swampy remind you that they are indeed old men, and they add a screaming goat sound effect to a couple of episodes. If it just happened once, I wouldn't mention it, but it happens multiple times, and that sucks. If I had a nickel! But for the most part, this feels exactly like the show we left off with, and I think it's doing fine and new enough things with the characters to justify itself. Except there's two characters who I feel like this season of Phineas and Ferb is not really interested in using, and that, dear viewer, is Phineas and Ferb. I don't know, did anyone else get the sense that these two are just inventing things out of obligation now? Back in the original series, there would be a whole opener explaining how they got inspired to build something for the day. There's even a whole catchphrase associated with it. Ferb, I know what we're gonna do today. In this season, they kind of just know what they're gonna do when the episode starts, and Isabella, Buford, and Baljeet are already all there. It starts to feel very samey when it's always those five characters who need to be around for every invention. Whereas in the original show, sometimes we would just focus on a couple of them. Buford and Baljeet only have a cameo in the first Meep episode. But that's fine, because it's more Finnabella focused. What happened to Finnabella? We barely get any of that this season. It just feels like they don't have any ideas for Phineas as a character. He was never the most dynamic protagonist in the original series run, but now he feels like even more of a placeholder. There was a fun episode where he and his friends turned evil because of Doof's Nader, and I remember one time he was actually inspired to make something because his favorite show got canceled. That was kind of it. Otherwise, it's here's the invention, let's move on now for the entire season. It feels like they primarily wanted to revive the show to do more Doofenshmirtz hijinks. It's been pretty clear since the original run ended that he was the creator's pet, and he likewise feels way more focused on than anyone else this season. That's great, I love Doof. And he isn't hijacking someone else's show this time around, which is nice. But I swear, Phineas and Ferb used to be motivated to make stuff. And it feels like the characters have just been thrown on autopilot this time around. The only thing I remember from any of their invention subplots, aside from the ones I previously mentioned, are all the funny Buford moments. This is the Doof and Buford season, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. But I did want to mention how lopsided it feels. Oh, and the songs aren't as good. Sorry, moving on. Alright, that was a pretty long write-up, so let's do a short one with a show that there isn't a whole lot to say about. Ha ha, you clown. seasons. I was very skeptical about this one because of how ass ugly the animation is, but I quickly started to get won over by its charms. The animation started to feel a lot like old school YouTube, and that, coupled with the dopey voice acting, ended up being pretty charming and reminded me of Mike Judge shows like Beavis and Butthead. The show is literally just three brothers who love their dad, and that's kind of it. That's the whole premise. They have silly misadventures, and there's a shocking amount of genuinely sincere moments that work in spite of, or perhaps because of, how goofy and simplistic the characters and their voices are. I really can't believe I'm saying this, but this might be the most feel-good show I've watched this year. I know, I'm looking at the same animation you are right now. But it is just legitimately incredibly charming, bite-sized fun. And it made me laugh quite a few times. If this sounds up your alley at all, definitely check it out. It really surprised me how much I enjoyed it. Next up is Invincible Season 3. I already made a video on this one that you can watch. I don't really have anything new to say. It was a pretty great season, but I think I like the first two better, and I really want them to get to Dinosaurus already. Now for Common Side Effects Season 1. This is another show I really wasn't expecting much from based on the art style. And I really hate to say it, but I don't think I grew more attached to it over time. I think it's the biggest thing holding the show back for me. Like, this weird big head style is great for a crude adult animated comedy, but that's not what this is at all. It's a legit, well-written, compelling crime drama thriller that also just so happens to look like that. I don't know, I didn't really vibe with the style, it took me out of some scenes, but you know, I don't really vibe with BoJack Horseman's art style that much either, and that didn't stop me from loving that show. Common Side Effects isn't on that level writing-wise, and it definitely took a little bit for the characters and story to click with me, but after sticking with it for 4 or 5 episodes, I got really hooked. This is an incredibly interesting and subtly philosophical show about the nature of life and death, and the evils of Big Pharma. I was really engaged by what a selfless, noble guy Marshall was, and Francis's constant struggle between pure morality and commerce was also really interesting to see. I like how much the season split the two of them apart, since their morals are just fundamentally incompatible in a lot of ways. It's a series that I didn't really know where it was gonna go. There are some great twists and turns, and characters who come back in pretty unexpected ways. I also really like the two agents chasing after Marshall, and how even they find themselves clashing. The characters and their dynamics in this just feel incredibly realistic and well realized. I wouldn't say anything here was extremely funny, but I did get some chuckles out of the boss character, voiced by Mike Judge, doing his barely disguised Hank Hill voice. What can I say, man? The Hank Hill voice is just so pleasing on the ears. I really enjoyed this show, and I'm definitely excited for season 2. But I'm gonna be honest, I feel like the reason it doesn't quite make the top 10 of the year for me is because of that art style. I just find it too distracting from what the show is actually going for. And despite my best attempts to look past it, it still just kinda bugs me. Even so, this is very much a show that's worth your time. And kicking off the top 10, we have the 4th straight adult animated series in a row. I did not do that on purpose. It's the one, the only, Smiling Friends Season 3! I don't know about you guys, but I thought this was a big improvement over Season 2. That season was still good, but it had quite a few episodes I just didn't vibe with. Whereas here, maybe the Silly Samuel episode was kinda weak, but that's about it. This show just keeps up the instantly iconic jokes and new vocal stems. Pim, I knew I liked you, dude.
Do that scream, make it loud!
I thought it looked delicious. She was absolutely breathtaking. Keanu Reeves would have approved 100%. This season has just been banger after banger. I especially love the last 3 episodes, with the Squim episode probably being one of my top 3 favorites in the whole show. I'm not updating the episode ranking though, it was hard enough with just the first 2 seasons. I don't want to make it harder. But yeah, some great stuff here. The rotoscoping is always hilarious, the claymation in the Mother Nature episode is awesome. They finally did something with Glep, which I really enjoyed. We see the Philly skyline and Wawa. How have I not run into the Smiling Friends yet? I've been so many places in the city, but I just can't find their office. Did they just not watch the show when they did the special pop-up event in Brooklyn? Did they just not notice that it takes place in Philly? What the f***, Adult Swim? Anyway, I do have to address a heinous comment I made in my ranking of the first 2 seasons.
Man, Mr. Boss. He was always my least favorite of the main characters anyway. I just never really found him as funny as the others.
Guys, I have never been more wrong before in my entire life. Mr. Boss might just be the funniest character on television right now. Every episode has some incredible moment with him, and I adore the dumb little changes in his voice during some of his line deliveries. He just keeps making me laugh in wonderful new ways. Whereas my old favorite character, Alan, has just kind of stagnated a bit and not really surprised me comedically as of late. He's still great, but he doesn't do much to leave an impression this season. I think my only issue with season 3 of this show is that it's starting to get pretty old hearing Zach Hadel voice almost everyone in the supporting cast. He always does a good job, but it can feel very samey and predictable compared to all the fun writing and animation surprises. Like, what happened to the Red Letter Media guys, or all the other YouTubers who make cameos in the show? The guest stars were one of the most fun parts about season 2, and I really hope they have more voice actors than just Zach and Michael over and over again going forward. That's about it though. This was a really funny season, and I can't wait to see more of my favorite characters like Charlie, Pim, and Dolly Dimpley! Coming in at number 9 is The Studio Season 1. Yeah, this seems to be a favorite for just about everyone this year. It's just a fun, wacky comedy that hits even harder if you love dumb movies. It's fun seeing what new Hollywood actors and directors will show up in each episode, and what chicanery our kooky main cast will put them through. The sheer amount of long takes in the show are crazy impressive, and totally not necessary for a comedy like this. But it's great seeing how much the show goes the extra mile, and expresses a sheer love for the art of filmmaking, even if the business side often gets in the way of that. On top of all the great jokes and bits, there's some solid commentary on the state of the film industry, with Seth Rogen's character wanting to make these artistic projects and constantly having to compromise his integrity instead. He made Martin Scorsese cry, dude. That actually made me a little upset. I know it's just a TV show, but damn. Part of me wishes the series was more serialized. Like, there is a bit of an ongoing plot with the Kool-Aid movie, but there's also a lot of episodes that just completely stand on their own and don't connect to anything else. Eventually, I started to vibe with that choice though. It just meant more variety in terms of the guest stars and the scenarios. I really did think Bryan Cranston's character would be in more episodes though. I found myself sorely missing him once he disappeared for the entire middle chunk of the season. Still, the main cast is great, and I think Seth Rogen is really starting to establish a lot more credibility as an actor slash producer. Like, he just gets really good projects made, and he's good in them. I can definitely forgive him for being generic celebrity voice actor in mainstream animated movie man for the past 20 years. I like that one part where they go to the smokehouse, cause I went there when I visited LA a couple years back. Not because I knew it was famous or anything, I was just looking up anywhere to eat, and I was like, yeah, that looks cool. In terms of episodes though, some of my favorites include the premiere with Scorsese, the one where they're trying to shoot the Oneer, the one where they second guess themselves on every casting decision for the Kool-Aid Man movie, and the Golden Globes episode. That's such a fun, sitcom-y premise in a location and scenario that only really makes sense for this show. That's what I love about the studio. It's not only funny, but it's even more engaging when you're obsessed with dumb movies like I am. So I'd like to thank Sal Saperstein for making this show happen. And coming in at number 8, we have season 2 of Ranma Half, or Ranma 1/2. I actually don't know how to pronounce it. Yeah, this might have come out of nowhere for those of you who remember my 2024 TV show ranking, because season 1 of this show sure wasn't on it. I ended up binging both seasons 1 and 2 this year, with only the second season being eligible for this ranking. Are you following me so far? Ranma is an anime based on a classic manga series that follows the misadventures of Ranma, a teenage boy who is cursed to transform into a girl every time he gets cold water splashed on him. He and his begrudging fiancée Akane have to contend with all sorts of crazy people who either want to kill and or marry him and or his female persona. This show is just an absolute blast. It's so strong comedically, and they continue ramping up the absurdity with the introduction of all sorts of other cursed characters. There's a lot more of Shampoo this season, which is great because she's hysterical to me. The Romeo and Juliet episode is fun. There's some actual good tension in the final 2 episodes with this crazy duck water. They even take the annoying trope of the old anime pervert and push it to such an extreme that it actually wraps around to being funny. Like, this guy is so pervy, he literally shrivels up and starts to die from being unable to touch a woman. It's just so out there that it ended up being kind of enjoyable. This show just has a tremendous sense of energy to it, and it brings the manga to life in fantastic fashion. I assume, because I've never read it. I should though, because I absolutely love this show. It's frenetic, it's hilarious, the animation is great. It was easily my favorite new anime find this year. But it was just edged out by season 2 of an anime I already watched the first season of last year. That of course being Dandadan. Or Dandadan, I don't know. Second verse, just as great as the first. I initially wasn't as hooked in by this opening arc, but the season definitely had me by the golden balls once the arc ended and we had to deal with Gigi's curse. If I had a nickel for every anime I watched this year featuring a guy who was cursed to transform whenever water splashes on him. Anyway, I loved the exorcism scene and the way Gigi just decided to deal with it instead. It made for a really investing conflict where I wasn't sure whether or not his will should be overwritten in this manner. But the development of this curse is what really kept me engaged throughout the season, on top of the usual outstanding animation and lovable character moments. I like the episode where they randomly fight Bach for some reason, and then when it turns into Voltron for some reason. This show is just so wacky, yet so stylish, and I cannot wait to see more of it based on the cliffhanger we left off on. Honestly, much like how I started reading the Invincible comics this year, I might just go ahead and dip into the manga just because I can't wait to spend more time with these characters. Their bond is just so endearing and wonderful. I think the scene that stuck out to me the most in this whole season was in episode 6, where we just see Okarun and Gigi stumbling through the house at night. It just subtly conveyed the message that these characters became a family. Hey, that's the name of the episode. Yeah, I like Dandadan, and you should watch it. Again, sorry in advance for the first episode of season 1. Coming in 6th place is season 2 of The Rehearsal. This season genuinely felt like a culmination of everything Nathan Fielder has done to this point. It follows up on the general premise and some of the plot threads from The Rehearsal season 1. It has a lot more of the cockamamie harebrained schemes we've come to know and love from Nathan For You, on top of directly connecting to the Summit Ice episode in a pretty funny way. And it features some reflection on his time as a dramatic actor in The Curse. One of the absolute funniest bits this season is when he refers to 2-time Academy Award winner Emma Stone as the actress who played my wife. Never change, Nathan. In general, I couldn't help but feel like this was a very self-reflective season that portrayed Nathan grappling with who he is and what his limitations are. But in turn, it asks the viewer to grapple with the question, okay, is this a bit? Like, there's no way he never got an autism diagnosis before this, right? Is Nathan actually struggling with who he is? Or is this entirely some sort of narrative he's crafting for the viewer? And to tie in with that, did he really fly that f***ing plane? Because he actually did get his pilot certification, that's real. What else is though? It's a season that leaves you laughing so often, but also makes you question more than ever who Nathan Fielder even is. Does he believe any of this stuff about airline safety? Does he want to be taken more seriously? Or is this all just one big prank? It's a season that goes to some of the most insane lengths I've witnessed on television in quite a while. Maybe ever. And as entertaining and absolutely hysterical as so many episodes of this season are, there's an equal amount of moments that left me with indescribable unease and uncertainty. One thing is for sure though, he was pretty ahead of the curve about Paramount being Nazis. Overall, I think my favorite episodes are the one where he puts himself in the shoes of Sully Sullenberger, a deeply psychotic scheme even by his standards. And of course, the finale, which gripped me from beginning to end. The ending with the singing competition winner singing Wake Me Up Inside, all as Nathan learns that the results are in on his diagnosis, was absolutely insane. A perfect encapsulation of the entity known as Nathan Fielder, if there ever was one. You gotta watch The Rehearsal, man. But maybe watch Nathan For You first, because it really pays to be a longtime viewer. Alright, now it gets tricky. I'm gonna be honest, I had the hardest time deciding between these next 4 shows. I went back and forth so often thinking, okay, should this one be number 2 or should it be all the way down in number 5? It was honestly one of the toughest decisions I've ever had to make in one of these rankings. So much so that I haven't fully finalized it at the time of this recording. So I'm just gonna record all 4 possible number placements for all 4 of these parts, just in case I change my mind at the last minute again. So, So, coming in at a more than respectable 5th place is Severance Season 2. Even though in hindsight I did prefer the first season, this was a more than worthy follow-up that turned out to be worth the 3-year wait. Why did it take 3 years though? Can TV shows stop doing that? As a matter of fact, I am just now noticing that half of my top 6 consists of season 2s to shows whose season 1 aired in 2022. What happened to TV, you guys? Oh my god. Anyway, I loved how much they were able to flesh out Helena and the dichotomy between her and Helly. It's just satisfying when a big season finale twist like that ends up playing a huge role going forward. Mark is still incredibly interesting to follow, and I like the progression of his relationship with Helly. Woe's Hollow was absolutely crazy, as was learning more about Gemma. I love how they just inexplicably hired a child this season. This show is as wonderfully weird as ever. Overall though, I think as of this season, my favorite character in the show has got to be Mr. Milchick. It is just so fascinating watching him grow more disgruntled with Lumen and his responsibilities, while still never ceasing that bizarre, pseudo-friendly attitude towards the innies. I absolutely loved his insane marching band misadventure in the finale, which, speaking of, I love the finale. That final choice is so fucking crazy, and I understand why he did it, but dude, that's just... oh, it's nuts! What a great show this continues to be. I really wanted to rank it higher, but it came down to the wire with this top 5, like I said. The margins were razor thin, to the point where having just one episode I didn't really vibe with might make all the difference. And, well... yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't really vibe with the Harmony episode. I know it provided important lore, but man, it was so dull. And the fact that it came right after the episode solely focused on Gemma, really odd choice. I mean, at that point, I hadn't seen Dylan in 3 weeks. I was starting to get worried about him. I don't just want to blame the Harmony episode though. I also think the stuff with Irving and Bert was a little abrupt and unsatisfying. Plus, I feel like there are a lot of other miscellaneous questions raised that the season didn't really answer. But maybe season 3 will handle those. Overall, I'm really happy with season 2 of Severance, though I hope the show can keep up this momentum and build to a satisfying resolution by the end. That doesn't always happen with big mystery shows, but, you know, hopefully this one sticks the landing. Now for my number 4 favorite show of 2025. It's the favorite animated show of the year for me and nobody else from what I've seen. I think everyone kind of forgot about it, okay. It's Long Story Short. I don't really have that much to say here, because I think I covered everything in my video on it, but suffice to say, this is another excellent dramedy from Raphael Bob Waxberg that just rings so true in ways I wasn't really expecting. I don't know how he does it, but this man has cracked the code on interpersonal drama, and he has some fun, wacky shit happen while doing it. I know it's a little hypocritical to rank this higher than Severance, since it had 2 episodes I didn't vibe with, but it's a lot more excusable in an episodic show that isn't too serialized. And I didn't find those episodes dull or anything, just a bit weaker than the others. Overall, I think this show is absolutely wonderful, and you really owe it to yourself to check it out. Don't even check out the top 3. They're famous. They already got eyes on them. If you take anything away from this video, is that the number 1 show you should be checking out right now is Long Story Short. With that said, here's 3 other seasons I liked better. Number 3, Andor Season 2. But wait a minute, Schaff. In your review of Andor Season 2, you gave it an 8.5 out of 10. And you gave Long Story Short a 9 out of 10. How do you explain this numerical inconsistency? Man, I don't know, I changed my mind. Shut up, nerd. Don't get me wrong, I still have problems with Andor Season 2 that remained on rewatch, and which prevent me from saying it's better than the absolutely perfect Season 1. I still really don't like those rebel guys Cassian has to deal with in episodes 1 and 2. I still think the finale is a little bit too much, oh, we need to jam everyone into their Rogue One starting position-y to really function on its own. I still found myself underwhelmed by not only the decision to kill off Cinta, but the way it happened too. And I still think the structure of jumping ahead a year every 3 episodes is a little disappointing. But, with that said, this has some of the strongest moments and overall episodes of television of the entire decade. I have my problems with the structure, but boy does it paint an amazing picture of the Empire's horrific campaign against Gorman. From its conception in the Imperial boardroom to the inevitable, terrifying outcome. The way they talk about convincing the rest of the galaxy that the Gore are arrogant. And then a year later, we hear Cyril's mom express that opinion after being fed so much propaganda. It's really bone-chilling. Maybe it's because I'm a little baby who needs to watch more movies, but I don't know if I've ever seen a better on-screen representation of the way fascism operates and the grueling steps needed to be taken to overcome it. Since its premiere, I have not been able to stop thinking about episode 8 of this season, which after careful consideration, I think I have to name the single best episode of television in 2025. Not only for its stomach-churning depiction of the massacre, but the moment that titular line is delivered is absolutely unbelievable. Even if the scene isn't explicitly related to the main focus of the episode, they just knew what they had and that it was too good to not name the episode after. Episodes 9 and 10 are also absolutely phenomenal. And the rest of the season is pretty great too. And maybe those first 2 episodes only land in the good range because of the annoying guys, but it picks up whenever it cuts away from them. And while the finale isn't one of my all-time favorites, I think it does bridge the gap pretty well between the rest of this more grounded show and the more spectacle-focused Star Wars-y Rogue One, which I do think was important for the finale to do. I mean, we got to see my GOAT, Admiral Raddus again. Hell yeah, dude. They really haven't missed a beat with writing K2SO either. He's just as much fun as ever, and it was great to see him on the rescue mission for Clea. God, Clea! How did she become one of the MVPs of the entire show in the last 3 episodes? Talk about a buzzer beater. To be fair, she was great in the episode where she had to remove the listening device, but her backstory with Luthen is so gripping. It really says a lot about how much I love this show, since I already made a video about it, and yet I'm still talking about it at length here. I don't really know what else to say, except Star Wars will probably not ever get this good again. This is it. This is how it ends. And from here on out, I think I'm done watching every single thing that comes out of this franchise. I mean, I guess that already happened because I didn't watch The Acolyte or Skeleton Crew, but now I'm ultra done. So, I would like to say one last thing on the matter. Thank you, Kathleen Kennedy, for greenlighting this show and allowing it to get made the way it was. And coming in at number 2, we have The Pitt. I love The Pitt! It's weird to be talking about a show that's already back for its 2nd season, which is airing right now. Because I gotta remember, okay, I just need to stick to season 1. I'll do my best. It's just hard to keep them separated in my mind since I'm not used to TV seasons actually releasing in a timely manner anymore. So, apologies to Smiling Friends, but this is my favorite show of the year that took place in Pennsylvania. I really only watched it because Severance fans were being really annoying when it beat Severance at the Emmys, and it made me want to check the show out of spite. I'm really glad I did because, yeah, The Pitt is the real deal. Maybe it doesn't quite hit the same highs as certain moments from Andor or Severance Season 2, but I feel like it's a more consistent experience that also has a lot of gripping highs of its own. The consistency probably stems from the fact that this is a medical drama that takes place in real time. Every episode is an hour in the shift of the emergency ward at this hospital, with the whole 15-episode season just amounting to 1 day. You start to remember that 12 episodes in, and you're like, holy shit, dude, all this trauma, all this horrific shit, they have to deal with that every day? It's made even more potent by the fact that this show has famously been described as one of the most accurate medical dramas by people who actually work in ER wards. I mean, obviously there's some creative license added, but for the most part, this is what they have to do on a daily basis. Actual superheroes, for real. It's just the most gripped I think I've been by a workplace drama ever. Each medical situation they have to deal with is incredibly high stakes, so it left me on the edge of my seat even before we got to the big climactic event towards the end of the season. I like how Dr. Robbie still has lingering trauma from working here during COVID. That makes a lot of sense, and it's devastating whenever he collapses. I like Dr. Mel, she's fun and nice. I like when the one cocky intern girl makes fun of Linguini from Ratatouille. The show touches on a wide variety of medical dilemmas and brings up some interesting moral debates about what the doctors can really do for their patients. And oh my god, that thing that happens in the last few episodes is insane. It felt like their entire world was collapsing. And Jake, oh my god, dude. I don't really want to blame him that much since he is just a kid who had a really traumatizing event happen to him. But dude, also him. I think there should be like a tongue-in-cheek hate subreddit for him, like there is for Manny Heffley or Pong Krell. Like, bro, just chill out, bro. Again, I'm not fully blaming him. I know why he acted that way. But also, come on, man. Anyway, watch The Pitt. It's a show that really knocked me off my feet, and I wasn't expecting it to at all. I love The Pitt, Charlie! I love The Pitt! And now, we finally made it to the #1 show on my list. Before this show aired, I was having the hardest time choosing between the previous 4 for my #1 spot. Oh, maybe it could be Severance? Maybe Andor? Long story short, perhaps? Okay, The Pitt seems like a good one. Oh, but did I like it better than the other ones? I don't know. Then I watched this show, and it wasn't even a contest. It was a complete blowout. Nothing else on TV this year even came close for me. My #1 favorite show of 2025 is Pluribus. Holy shit, dude. Bravo Vince is back at it again with what I would easily call his best first season of television to date. I've never seen him come out of the gate swinging this confidently before. Because that's what Pluribus is. The most confident season of television I've seen in quite a while. It's a slow burn. I think it's impossible to deny that. And a lot of people have complained about how slow it is, saying it's boring and it doesn't need all this build-up and it's not worth the hype. What people have been saying about this show actually reminds me of what I said about Better Call Saul the first time I watched it. See, the thing is, when I said all that shit, my frontal lobe had not yet fully developed. The thing you need to understand about Better Call Saul is that it is a phenomenal work of storytelling. I would still say the Jimmy stuff is a lot more interesting than the Mike stuff. But the Mike stuff is really good, at least. And Jimmy's story is honestly even better than Breaking Bad, in my opinion. I have learned to never doubt Vince Gilligan ever again. And that could not be more clear after watching Pluribus. I could not look away from the screen for a single second, even when Carol's doing the most mundane of tasks. I was just so fascinated by what life was like in a world where you're one of the only people with free will remaining. The hive mind is such a fascinating character. I could not wait to see more episodes and learn more about how they operate, what makes them tick, what their overall goals were, and how they truly felt about Carol. Yes, the best episode so far is the premiere, I don't think anyone can deny that. But once the show moves on from that explosive opening and really starts to settle into its true form as a mellow, reflexive meditation on what loneliness and isolation can do to a person, I was just as hooked as I was by the premiere. Carol's narrative arc is so brilliant in this. We see her highs and lows in terms of fighting the hive mind, then slowly giving into them once she realizes no one else really seems to care about what she's doing. I love seeing the intense psychological effects the hive mind deserting her ends up having on her. It's such a brilliant little touch how their attempts to convert her to be one of them mirror her time in a conversion camp as a kid. Once Manusos comes into the picture, it becomes even more interesting as we see the only person Carol actually inspired to do more to save the world now being the only one of the two of them who actually cares to. I just love the dynamics in the finale, and how none of the parties involved are entirely good nor evil. Manusos is obviously doing the most good, but with the caveat of having a somewhat extreme method, and a desire to destroy the hive mind if he can't fix them. The hive mind is manipulative and actively working to turn Carol, but it's out of the biological imperative they can't control. And Carol... okay, I'll admit, she kind of pissed me off in this episode after Manusos came all that way to meet her. But again, her actions are perfectly understandable as someone who's been starved for human interaction for so long and actively gaslit into thinking Zoja truly is in love with her. She's been indoctrinated into the cult. And while she only really breaks out of it out of self-preservation, coming off as a little bit less selfless than Manusos, it nonetheless just makes her feel all the more realistic. She's not this shining paragon of heroism. She's a real person dropped into an overwhelmingly bleak scenario who did her best to fix it initially, but couldn't help but give in to the temptation. Can you blame her? I mean, they found the scientifically proven most fuckable human in the world to interact with her. I'm amazed she lasted as long as she did. It's just one of the most fascinating premises I've seen in quite a while. With every new detail about the hive mind forcing your mind to race as how they can possibly turn her and how Carol can fight back. I like how everyone clocked the egg thing as early as episode 3. But that's not a failed twist. That's a reflection of a show so confident in where it's going that it doesn't feel the need to obfuscate its clues or make them hard to piece together. And oh my god, the cinematography. I forgot how much better Vince and the gang are at framing shots than nearly anyone else making TV nowadays. For no damn reason, too. The episode where we see Manusos's journey to reach Carol is one of the most visually gorgeous pieces of television I've seen in quite a while. And the show is really funny, too. People often acclaim the drama in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, without remembering that there were a lot of good jokes in both of those shows. It's the same here. The John Cena bit had me rolling. They got the actual mayor of Albuquerque to cameo as himself. Absolute cinema. I actually can't believe how great this show is. I mean, I can believe it, because it's Vince Gilligan. But it's just good to have him back after all this time. Apparently, his primary motivation when making the show was just to make Rhea Seehorn a bigger star than she was. And I think it's working. She's been winning Best Actress at big award shows that she was never nominated for when Better Call Saul was airing. She clearly should have been nominated for that. But to be fair, she is even better here somehow. There are long stretches of the show that only feature her and no other actors. And she nails every emotion so perfectly. Definitely my favorite TV performance of 2025. In what was undoubtedly my favorite overall show of the year. I said it before and I'll say it again. Bravo, Vince. Alright, that was a much longer ranking than it should have been. Why did I watch All's Fair? Oh my god. Tune in for my final 2025 ranking, all about the movies. Much like the TV and game rankings, it was not hard to pick the #1 spot for that list. Whatever movie you think is #1, yeah, that's the one. Please look forward to it anyway. Good night, Albuquerque. Oh yeah, and I forgot to do an OP ranking because not much really impressed me this year. Peacemaker Season 2 wins and it's not even close. Goodbye.